The doorbell cut through a silence that had lasted 3 years, since the day Carolyn Reeves drew her last breath. Larry set down his book and walked toward the front door, his leather slippers whispering against the hardwood.
At this hour, I'm not expecting anyone.
He opened the door to find an old man, stooped and thin, clutching a small metal canister to his chest like a relic.
Larry Reeves? My name is George Lyman. I was your wedding videographer 40 years ago. Your wife paid me $500 to cut something from the film. I never did. I kept it. For 40 years.
What are you saying? Carolyn never mentioned any cut footage.
She paid me to delete 11 minutes. I'm here to give it back.
George placed the canister into Larry's hands and stepped back, his eyes full of decades-old regret.
You'd better come in.
George settled onto the sofa, his bent frame outlined by the mantel clock, while Larry lowered himself into the armchair, the canister heavy on the coffee table between them.
Start from the beginning. What, 11 minutes?
The day after your wedding, your wife came to my studio. She paid me cash. She wanted a scene removed, her sister Christine pulling you aside in the vestibule.
Christine? She never spoke to me for more than a minute at the wedding. What could she have said?
I never watched it. I just knew it mattered enough for her to bury it.
Why keep it all these years? Why come now?
Because I'm 81. Because I lay awake thinking about a man who never knew his own wedding tape was missing a piece.
George rose, his knees creaking, and pressed a folded paper with his phone number onto the side table. He paused at the door, looked back once, and then the latch clicked shut. Alone, Larry lifted the canister. 40 years of marriage, and a tin no bigger than a coffee mug was about to speak louder than any photograph on his mantel.
I have to know what she cut.
He climbed the pull-down attic stairs, the canister cold in his hand, and dug through dust until his fingers closed around the old Bell and Howell projector. In the living room, he threaded the brittle film reel by touch, his hands tracing a path they'd learned 4 decades ago. A low hum rose from the machine, and the smell of hot metal and old celluloid filled his nostrils. He killed the lamps. The projector threw a wide column of light that caught dust motes spinning in the air.
This was the last moment he could walk away.
He pressed the switch. A clatter. Then the wall bloomed with color and movement. There was the old stone church, exactly as it had been on that September afternoon. Larry's fingers crushed the armrests as the camera panned inside. And for the first time in 40 years, he watched himself at the altar, waiting for Carolyn. The organ swelled, and there was Carolyn, her lace train skimming the aisle runner, her smile the same one he'd fallen in love with. And there he was, 26, with a full head of dark hair, gripping his own hands to keep them from shaking. The minister spoke. Carolyn tilted her head, the way she always did when she was listening hard. Then the reception, fairy lights, and that ridiculous cake, and the two of them dancing as if the room had emptied. But on the edge of the shot, he saw Christine. Her arms were crossed, and her eyes never left him.
I don't remember her looking at me like that.
The frame jumped, and suddenly the vestibule. Christine's hand was on his young self's arm, pulling him past the coat rack.
This is the moment. This is what George kept.
Larry's knuckles went white on the armrests as the film reel spun on. The projector hummed. On the screen, Christine opened her mouth to speak.
Larry, I need you to hear me. Carolyn's been with another man. It ended barely 2 weeks ago.
The young man on the screen didn't move. The organ from the church drifted through the walls.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, but I can't let you marry her without knowing. There's a real chance she's pregnant.
In the armchair, Larry's breath caught. The word pregnant hit like a fist to the sternum.
7 months. Joshua was born 7 months after the wedding.
I know you love her, but you deserve the truth. I had to warn you.
On the screen, young Larry stood motionless, his face a mask of shock. Then something worse, understanding. He gave a single, tight nod and walked back toward the ceremony, his shoulders set like a man going to an execution.
He knew, and he married her anyway.
The footage jumped to rice being thrown. Larry's hands shook against the armrests, and the canister gleamed on the table. The reel spun out. The screen flickered white, then black, and the projector hummed to a stop. Larry thumbed the off switch. The motor died.
7 months. They told everyone 7 months premature.
He held the canister in both hands, the weight of 40 years pressing into his palms. He sat in the dark, the projector cooling beside him, and listened to the silence that had always been there but he'd never noticed.
Carolyn, what did you do to us?
The gold wedding band caught the first gray light creeping through the curtains.
The younger me chose to marry her anyway, but the older me has to live with what that means.
He did not cry. He simply breathed, each exhale a small surrender. The canister sat on his lap like a gravestone, and outside, the morning birds began. An hour later, Larry pushed open the door to his study. He pulled the heavy album from the shelf and opened it to the page he knew by heart.
There he was, 2 days old, wrapped in a blue blanket, Carolyn's arms around him.
From the back of the album, a yellowed envelope fell out. He opened it, and the birth certificate slid onto the desk. Date of birth, April 14th, 1986. Weighing 6 pounds, 9 ounces. The margin read, premature, 7 months gestation.
7 months. A baby that size? 7 months? I believed it because I wanted to. I taught him to ride a bike, to drive, to shave. Every moment, I was playing a role I didn't know was borrowed.
He set the certificate down gently, as if it might break. His mind raced through anniversaries, birthdays, moments of pride.
None of those memories are lies. But the man in that photo holding the baby, is he even my son?
The morning sun edged higher. The paperwork sat on the desk like a verdict. Larry closed the album. The air in the study felt thinner, and the clock on the wall ticked louder. He walked from the study into the living room, where every photograph held a question.
There we were, Hilton Head, her hand in mine. She looked happy. Was it real? You smiled like that 1,000 times, but who were you really smiling at?
He paced, his slippers tracing the floor over and over, as if it might give up an answer.
Joshua's first birthday. He smeared cake on my glasses. I never laughed harder. That memory is mine. Was any of it real? Did I ever truly know her? She chose me every day for 38 years. Does a secret at the start erase the life we built?
His hand found the back of the armchair, and he collapsed into it.
I loved her. I love her. I love Joshua. But how do I carry this alone?
The sun climbed the wall, and Larry remained still. The phone on the side table buzzed, and the screen lit up with a name that usually brought comfort. Joshua, he answered.
Hey, Dad. Just wanted to hear your voice. It's been a quiet week.
This voice. I taught him to shave, to drive, to be gentle with others. I held him when he was small and afraid, and now I hold a secret that could shatter the man he's become.
The call timer on the screen counted seconds of silence.
You still there? I've been thinking about Mom. The anniversary's coming up. Are you okay?
I'm here. Just tired. Didn't sleep much.
He could hear his son breathing on the other end, waiting for more.
Okay, Dad. Call me if you need anything. Love you.
He ended the call. The screen went black, and the canister on the coffee table caught the light. He pulled on his old wool coat, slipped into loafers, and stepped out into a morning so new the streetlights still glowed. The neighborhood slept. He walked past mailboxes and quiet lawns, the canister left behind on the coffee table but no lighter for it.
I remember her making pancakes every Sunday, even when the kitchen was tiny. She'd hum off-key and I'd watch her and think, this is enough.
At the park, he lowered himself onto a bench near the pond, his breath misting in the chill.
If biology made a father, Then my own father would have been perfect. But he wasn't. So maybe it's the showing up that counts.
He watched the water darken and lighten as clouds passed, a heron poised at the edge.
She gave me 38 years of showing up, of worrying when I was sick, of laughing at my jokes, of raising him to be good.
His legs ached, but he stood and walked on, the path winding toward the old oak. Under its branches, the sunset caught the silver in his hair, and he stood very still. He wasn't ready to forgive, but he was starting to wonder if the love he'd lived was stronger than the lie he'd just learned. 3 mornings later, before the sun broke the trees, Larry sat on the same park bench, his coat damp with dew.
The test isn't whose blood runs in his veins. The test is who showed up for him every single day. Joshua is my son. That truth belongs to me, not to the footage.
He had walked for days, sifting through anger and grief, and the answer did not come with thunder, just a quiet, unshakable certainty.
I will never tell him. He loved his mother and she loved him. I won't shatter that.
But a name surfaced in his mind like a pebble in still water. Christine. She had warned him, and she had carried the weight alone.
She deserves to know the truth didn't destroy us, and I need to hear her side.
He pushed himself up from the bench, his knees protesting, his heart lighter than it had been in a week. He walked home with a new purpose, the oak tree's branches reaching behind him like an open hand. Inside, he found the phone number George had left on the side table. But first, he looked up Christine's address. The internet gave him an address, Sunny Acres Assisted Living, 22 miles away.
She's been that close all this time, and I never knew.
He called the facility, his voice steadier than he felt, and asked about visiting hours. Yes, Christine Morris was a resident. He backed out of the driveway and pointed the old sedan toward the highway. The canister sat on the passenger seat, unopened.
40 years since she pulled me aside. 40 years of silence. What do I even say to her?
The landscape changed from suburbs to open fields, the sky bright and indifferent. Sunny Acres appeared at the end of a long drive, a low brick building with flower beds and benches.
She's been here, with her own thoughts, her own ghosts, and I'm bringing mine through the door.
He signed in at the front desk, the visitor badge cold against his cardigan. The hallway smelled of lavender and aftershave. He walked deeper, his footsteps soft on the carpet. He stopped at room 114. The nameplate read Christine Morris in neat black letters, and for a long moment he just stood there. 3 knocks, soft, but they sounded like a verdict. The door opened slowly. An elderly woman, thinner than he remembered, white hair pulled back, stared at him through thick glasses.
Larry, is that Larry Reeves?
Hello, Christine. It's been a long time.
I can't believe it. Please, come in.
She led him into a small, sunlit room with a blue armchair and a table crowded with photographs. Her hands shook as she gestured for him to sit.
I never thought I'd see you again. After the funeral, I imagined you wanted nothing to do with me.
I came because I need to talk about something. Something from the wedding.
Christine's face went pale. She lowered herself into the armchair slowly, as if a weight had just been added to her bones.
The videographer came to my house. He never destroyed the footage, Christine. I watched it.
She froze. Then her face crumpled, and the first tear rolled down her cheek.
Oh, Larry, I've dreaded this conversation for 40 years. I was trying to protect you. I couldn't let you walk into that marriage blind.
She pressed her hands together until her knuckles went white, her voice trembling.
I never told another soul. Not my parents, not my husband. I saw how much you loved her and I couldn't destroy it. When Joshua was born, you were so happy. I knew the secret would only hurt you. So I stayed silent.
You were the only one who told me the truth, Christine. That took courage.
It haunted me. Every year watching you 3, I'd ask myself if I did the right thing.
Silence filled the room. Then Larry leaned forward and gently covered her hand with his.
Why didn't you tell me later, Christine? When the marriage was good. When Joshua was growing up.
Because I was afraid. You three had built something real. What right did I have to wreck it?
Her voice cracked, and she pulled a tissue from her sleeve, dabbing at her eyes.
After Joshua was born, I saw you with him. You were such a father, Larry. I couldn't take that from either of you.
She carried it alone. All those years alone. And I've been angry at a ghost.
Every Christmas card, every family photo I saw of you three, I hoped I'd done the right thing.
Larry nodded slowly, his thumb brushing absent-mindedly over her knuckles.
I loved my sister, but I also loved you, Larry. You deserved the truth at the start, and you deserved peace after.
She didn't stay silent out of cruelty. She stayed silent because she loved our family more than her own need to be right.
The afternoon light shifted through the window. They sat together, hands still touching, the heavy silence finally beginning to lift.
Christine, I need you to hear this. I'm not angry anymore. You did a hard thing because you cared about me. And I don't regret marrying Carolyn, not one day. 38 years of love outweigh 11 minutes of truth. I forgive you, Christine, for the silence, for carrying it alone. I forgive you.
Christine's chin trembled. The tears she'd held back for 40 years finally fell without restraint.
Thank you, Larry. I've waited to hear that for so long.
She stood, and he rose to meet her. They embraced, two old people finally putting down a weight that had bent them both. Her body shook, and he held on, the gold wedding band pressing against her shoulder blade. When they pulled apart, Christine's face was wet but peaceful, years of guilt washed away. She reached for his hand again, and he gave it a gentle squeeze. In that small gesture, the 40-year silence was finally broken.
I'll come back, Christine. We've got 40 years of silence to catch up on.
I'd like that, Larry. Very much.
He squeezed her hand one last time and stepped into the hallway, the visitor badge still clipped to his cardigan. Outside, the afternoon sun warmed his face, and he drew a breath that tasted different, lighter, cleaner, as if the air had been scrubbed. He slid into the driver's seat, the canister on the passenger side still waiting, its label yellowed but intact.
She wasn't perfect, but neither was I, and together we built something that outlasted the secret.
The highway stretched ahead, the fields golden, and the radio played a tune Carolyn used to hum on Sunday mornings.
I'll honor her by remembering the real marriage, not the hidden minutes. That's what she would have wanted.
He drove past the old oak, and for the first time in weeks, he didn't feel alone. The silence in the car was comfortable, not heavy. The canister sat on the seat, no longer a gravestone. Just a tin, filled with film that had done its damage and been forgiven. The front door clicked shut behind him, and Larry crossed the quiet living room, the canister weighing nothing now. He stopped at the mantel. Carolyn's photo smiled at him from its walnut frame, unchanged, eternal. With both hands, he set the metal canister down beside her picture. The tin rested against the wood like it had always belonged there. Together, the canister and the photograph told a single story, a secret kept, a truth revealed, and a love that had swallowed both.
I'll never watch it again. I don't need to. The truth is in those 11 minutes, but the love is in the 38 years.
He sat in the armchair, the same one where he'd watched the footage, where he'd paced and raged. Now it simply held him. The room was quiet, but it was no longer the silence of a widower alone with his grief. It was the silence of a man who had made peace. Outside, the streetlights came on, and the canister caught the glow. Carolyn's smile, unchanged, watched over the room. He would send a card to George tomorrow, and he would visit Christine, but tonight he stayed still, holding the quiet. The canister was home. So was the truth, and so at last was Larry Reeves. The next morning, Larry sat at his wooden desk, a fresh Christmas card open before him, the pen steady in his hand. He wrote, "George, thank you for the gift. I've made peace. The footage stays with me now. Merry Christmas, Larry. He sealed the envelope, slipped on his coat, and walked to the mailbox at the curb, the winter air crisp against his cheeks. 2 days later, 81-year-old George Lyman pulled a card from his own mailbox and carried it to his kitchen table. His hands trembled as he opened it. He read the words twice, then pressed the card to his chest.
He forgave me. After 40 years, I can finally sleep.
Miles away, the canister sat undisturbed on the mantel, the morning light warming the metal. Larry dusted the frame every week, but he never moved the canister. It was part of the story now. And when he sat down to read, his eyes would sometimes drift to the mantel, and he would smile. Not because the secret didn't matter, but because he had finally learned to carry it without being crushed. Every December for the next 5 years, a Christmas card left Larry's mailbox bound for George Lyman's small house in Edgewood. The 5th year, the card came back stamped deceased. George had passed in his sleep, the obituary said, at 86. Larry drove to the cemetery and placed a wreath on the fresh stone himself. No one else came. He still had Joshua. The week after, his son pulled into the driveway with a grocery bag and a grin.
Dad, you ever going to tell me what's on that old film canister? You stare at it like it holds the secrets of the universe.
Just some old wedding footage. Nothing you need to worry about. Let's eat.
They ate sandwiches at the kitchen table, talking about baseball and weather, and when Joshua hugged him goodbye, Larry held on a beat longer. He never told him, and he never would. The secret was buried, not in shame, but in love. Evening settled. The canister and the photo shared the mantel, 2 pieces of a puzzle that only he knew how to solve. Larry Reeves, at 79, had finally learned that some secrets aren't meant to be exposed. They're meant to be understood. Years passed, and the canister never moved. It became as permanent as the wedding band on his finger.
I chose love, and that choice made me who I am.
The quiet was no longer empty. It was full of Carolyn's voice, Joshua's laughter, and the weight of a secret that had finally lost its power. One evening, he reached up and touched the canister, his fingers cool on the metal, and he whispered something only the mantel could hear.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you, George. Thank you, Carolyn.
He didn't need the footage. He had the life. The canister remained, a silver guardian of the truth, beside the woman whose smile he still loved. And in the end, that was enough. The house settled into its evening quiet. The canister and the photograph remained, side by side, as they would for all the years left. Larry Reeves would carry the secret to his grave, not as a burden, but as the deepest proof that love is not always in the knowing, it is in the choosing. The house on Chestnut Street grew old with him. The mantel never changed. Larry Reeves lived another 8 years. He visited Christine until she too passed, then sent her a card anyway, once addressed to the chapel. When Joshua visited, they talked about the garden, the birds, the weather. The canister was never mentioned again, and it didn't need to be. On the morning he died, the sun came through the window and struck the canister so that the room filled with a warm silver light. Larry opened his eyes once, looked at the canister, and smiled. Then he closed them, and the smile stayed. The canister, the photograph, and the wedding band were the only things Joshua kept. Not the house, not the car, just those. Joshua never opened the canister. He didn't need to. His father had been enough. And somewhere, in a box in an attic, 11 minutes of film sat silent, holding a truth that had been felt, not seen. The house on Chestnut Street stood quiet. The porch light burned all night, as it had for 40 years. And on the mantel, in the room where a man once learned the hardest truth, the canister still gleamed, guarding its secret forever.